Hello and welcome back to our Football Manager 2024 Ipswich adventure on the 2024-25 season update for the 2024 game. Today we come back for some FA Cup action, slightly earlier than I was planning to come back for. I was planning to play the whole of January, do the whole transfer window, then come back in February, but we have got through to the fourth round of the FA Cup, so we're going to go away to Eddie Howe's Newcastle at St James's Park today and see if we can spring an upset. So since you have last been with me, we have played 4 games in total. One win in the FA Cup, obviously against West Ham. I'll come to that in a minute. But last time you were with me, we played 3 real crunch games in the Premier League. Winning against Wolves, drawing against Bournemouth, and losing against Crystal Palace. And crucially, we only scored 1 goal in those 3 games. So something had to change after those 3 games. We are still in the relegation battle. We're still a little bit adrift at the bottom, but we're still in it at least. But those games were a real opportunity, and I think those were a missed opportunity. We should have at least got 2 wins out of the 3, but not to score in 2 of the 3 games was a concern, to say the least. After that, we went away to Fulham. We did take the lead against Fulham, which gave me some confidence that we could get something out of that game, and that's actually exactly the same outcome as what happened when we hosted Fulham in the second game of the season, because we went ahead with Connor Chaplin, then Fulham went on to win. However, the scoreline wasn't 2-1 this time, it was doubled at 4-2. Nathan Broadhead took the lead 24 minutes in, but fairly soon after, Issa Diop made it 1 each. We went in at half-time 1 each, so pretty happy with that. But Fulham made it 3-1 with 20 minutes to go. Jack Taylor scored a screamer with 10 minutes to go. It seems like that's the only way he scores goals, and he got the goal of the month for that. So we pulled it back to 3-2, inevitably went to attacking, but Fulham went and scored a 4th. So that was disappointing. And you can see in that game, crucially, that Muric got a rating of a 5.9. Which has led me to make a change. Because in terms of his form, you can see on his average rating. I mean, he's had some decent games, to be fair. Some 7s, etc. But generally looking at his rating, his average rating is a 6.69, which isn't too bad. But generally speaking, he's been okay to middling. So I have made a goalkeeper change, which I'll come to in a minute. But we went away to Manchester. Well, we didn't go away. We hosted Manchester City on the first day of 2024. Obviously, in-game is a year behind. And we got a result. And that was in some small part due to a change of system. Because we went and conceded 4 against Fulham, I thought we've got to shut up shop, at least against Manchester City. I read something last weekend when I played this game against Manchester City. Just really a comment on a BBC Sport page, which did make me think that some of these newly promoted teams should just play Route 1 football, because they can't play out from the back. They haven't got the know-how or really the ability to play out from the back without being exposed, particularly like a team against Manchester City. So we played with 5 at the back. Didn't really work for us because we were 2-0 down 71 minutes in. But remarkably, we came back, and just to put the icing on the cake, Liam Delap's game, of course Liam Delap has come from Manchester City. He scored the goal which made it 2 each and got us 1 point. Really the result wasn't reflective of the game at all, obviously. But Christian Walton played his first game of the season. He might have played in a cup game, but certainly his first league game, and had a decent day. And although we weren't great defensively, only conceding 2 against Manchester City isn't a bad job. So we managed to get a point out of that, which was massive for us to keep us in the fight down the bottom of the table. But what's really given me confidence in this system, and I'll allude to what maybe could say that it's just a bit of a false dawn, is that we hosted West Ham in the FA Cup. Not a game I was expecting to win, but we persisted with a system at 5 at the back. Made a bit of rotation, played Janoy Donasian. Edmondson was at the back as well. We have got some players out at the, not the African Cup of Nations, but it's like the Asia Cup or something like that. So a couple of our players are out, which is a little bit disappointing. I'll come on to that as well in a minute. But we took the lead against West Ham. West Ham then went and scored 2 quick-fire goals. You've got to remember that when we played West Ham earlier in the season at the London Stadium, we went and lost, I think, 5-1. But we made it 2 each, 71 minutes in. And then Stefan Bajcetic, which I'll touch on in a little second, scored a goal in the 97th minute to propel us to the next round. And although the stats weren't completely in our way, one big thing was that we had 48% of possession. The XG obviously was a little bit lower for us, but we didn't have a bad game. We didn't have a bad day at the office. 12 shots, 7 of them on target. and that seems to have improved things a little. However, in our last game, the spirits have been dampened a little bit. 2 games unbeaten, which is something we haven't done all that often this year. And then we got absolutely battered by Tottenham. But Tottenham, to be fair, were in really good form. Look at those stats. 27 shots, 16 of those on target, an XG of 3.83. You just have to accept that we'll take a battering. But I hope it's not a complete loss of confidence. But you can see Christian Walton, even conceding 4, had a good day with an average rating of 7.5. So we go away to Newcastle in the 4th round of the FA Cup. I'm also going to show you the away game against Brighton to see if we can get something at the Amex. But just to show you the Premier League table before we go into this FA Cup tie. We are still bottom of the table and a little bit adrift, but that point that we got still keeps us in play, because if we hadn't got that point, we'd have been a win behind Wolves. Crucially, our goal difference at the moment is exactly the same as Wolves. Wolves, unbelievably, have still only scored 11 goals in 22 games this year. We've only scored 16, but the fact 11 is, 1 every 2 games, which is absolutely shocking for Wolves. But you can see that really we need a couple of wins. We need a couple of wins to propel us up the table, and we've got a decent chance to do that. We've got Notts Forest on the 3rd of Feb, which I'll be showing you in the next episode. We then play Brentford away. We've got Southampton in February as well. And we've got to play West Ham again, which we know we beat them in the FA Cup. So these 4 games, I think, present a massive opportunity to us. I did allude to it before, that I'm just checking that you can see without my head in the way. You can see 3 of the 4 games. In March, we've got to play United, Chelsea and Arsenal. All of them being on the TV, which is great for monetary reasons. But I can't see us getting anything out of those. But if we can get a point out of Man City, maybe we can get a couple of points out of those guys. Who knows? But the focus is on the FA Cup, the 4th round of the FA Cup. Again, wasn't really bothered about this competition. But if we can go and beat West Ham, then... if we can go and beat Newcastle, then even if we do get relegated, which I think, even with a positive slant on it, is highly likely, if we can go and get a good run in the FA Cup, then that gives us a bit of a positive slant to our season. However, we are in January, nearly the end of January, and you'll remember at the end of the last episode, there was a bit of a cliffhanger as to whether the board was going to give us any money, because we said we needed to go out and buy a new striker. Because we just couldn't score goals, the free transfer market was pretty poor. I'd got my eye on a couple of players, and the board gave us some money. They accepted my request for transfer budget, and they gave us 16 million to spend. So I went after a couple of targets. Both of them were unfortunately unsuccessful. So first off, I went after Danny Ings, because I thought, if we're going to go for a striker, I'd like to try and get somebody who is sat on a Premier League bench every week. Somebody who we know can deliver the goods, but isn't currently playing. And you can see that Danny Ings' price was between 10.5 and 13 million, so it would spend a lot of our transfer budget, but I thought Danny Ings would be worth it. We got the bid of, I think it was 12 million, a bid of 12 million accepted in the end by West Ham, but Danny Ings wouldn't budge. He just didn't want to join the club at all. So we went after a loan deal. Again, Danny Ings wasn't really taking that. Just didn't think Ipswich was big enough a club for him, which is disappointing because he's not playing for West Ham. I mean, he's had 8 appearances, albeit all of those coming off the bench for West Ham. So a bit disappointing the fact that Danny Ings didn't want to join us. We went after Ryan Fraser as well from Newcastle. Just really as a bit of experience out on the wing, albeit with the new system we're playing with now, probably wouldn't be used. But he was on the transfer list. I felt that he was he's actually a former Ipswich player, which is quite a nice time, but he's a really hard worker, and thought he would add a bit of quality to the side. Again, wouldn't be interested in joining the club. So that was my 2 paid for guys out of the way, really. So we have made 3 signings, crucially none of them being a striker, but actually there is one striker, I've completely forgot about him, but we haven't spent money on a striker. We've brought in 2 free transfers and a loan deal, and one of those players you would have seen on the West Ham game. We've brought in Stefan Bajcetic from Liverpool, a young player of 19. I really like Bajcetic in real life. If you don't know by now, I am a Liverpool fan, and I have got a Liverpool t-shirt on today, so been a little bit dodgy towards Ipswich, but we have bought Stefan Bajcetic in on a loan deal. That loan deal has cost us $1.5 million till the end of the season. You can see from the monthly fees and his wage budget and all the rest of it, but he does add some solidity to our side. He's a young player, but I think he's a very good player even at that. He's only got an ability of 2.5 stars. We're playing him as a defensive midfielder. Good stats all round, really, with the exception of his strength, which he is working on. But he had a real firecracker of a debut against West Ham. Got a goal and an assist, so a really good start for him. The Tottenham game, you can't really judge him on because nobody played well in that Tottenham game. We got absolutely battered. We went and also signed a striker. To be honest, in the free transfer market in terms of strikers, it was pretty poor. So we brought in Kevin Gamero on a free transfer. Fairly low risk, to be honest. He's only on £4,000 a week. He's coming as an impact sub. You can see he's a fringe player that's probably past his best, but he's got good all-round stats. He's very good off the ball, which is positive for us. But you can see that wherever he's been, whether it be France, Spain, well, France or Spain, he's always scored goals, apart from a few dry seasons with Atletico Madrid and Valencia. In the last 2 years with Strasbourg, he's scored 10 goals in both seasons in Ligue 1. So gives us a bit of experience, and who knows? Again, it's a fairly low-risk striking signing that we've made there, but again, add some experience to the side, which I think is big for us. The big signing that we've made, and I made a point at the start of this series that we didn't want to go and buy anybody that was unrealistic, because Football Manager does make it a little bit easier. Or so I thought, definitely not by the fact that Ings and Fraser rejected us. In the past, Football Manager has made it fairly easy to go and sign players that are a little bit unrealistic. But this player was teetering on being unrealistic, but I don't think he is, because Joel Matip is a player that was released by Liverpool at the end of last year. He tore his ACL, I think it was pretty much the start of last season for Liverpool, and never played for them again. So was released on a free transfer at the end of last season. But looking online, there's a lot of Premier League clubs in for him in real life. So I don't think it's an unrealistic signing to go and get Joel Matip. However, we had to throw the kitchen sink at it, because Joel Matip wanted £68,000 a week. The board would only pay £37,000 a week, so I've had to give him a loyalty bonus, appearance fees, top of the pile, clean sheet bonuses, substitute fees, and then when he reaches 10 games, I've managed to pop him up to £43,000 a week, which makes Joel Matip by far the highest paid player at the club, apart from Sammy Schmodix, which is a real weird one. I don't know if that's correct in real life, but ignoring Sammy Schmodix, which might be inaccurate, the next best paid player is his defensive partner, Luke Wolfenden. Don't think I really need to introduce Joel Matip too much. For anybody who's a fan of the Premier League will know Joel Matip pretty well. The main thing for me, because we've started scoring goals now, we scored 2 against City and 3 against West Ham, desperately needs to shore up the defence. And this signing was made in the 2 weeks between the Tottenham game and the Newcastle game today. We just needed some solidity in defence, and hopefully Joel Matip will be worth his weight in gold in organising the defence, and hopefully making us concede a few less goals, because if you look at a lot of these matches, you know, we've lost twice by 1 goal in December. Actually, we've lost 3 times by 1 goal in December. We've lost another time 1-0, lost against Brighton. So we've lost probably 6 or 7 times this year by 1 goal. So if Joel Matip can keep that 1 goal extra out a game, then hopefully he can convert losses to draws and potentially draws to wins. But I'm not going to go and sign anybody else in this transfer window, because we have our maximum squad of 25 players already confirmed. If somebody leaves the club in the next few days, then I might do something, but I just didn't want to go and spend 10 million on a championship striker that isn't proven in the Premier League and really isn't much of an improvement on what we've got already. So with that, I'm going to go into the Newcastle game. The starting lineup for today is Walton in goal, Harry Clark's on right defence. We've got Wolfenden, Matip is going to make his debut today, and Axel Tuanzebe in the middle of defence, with Leif Davis on the left. This tactic normally uses wing-backs rather than full-backs, but you can see that, Harry Clark and Leif Davis actually can play, but it's Ben Johnson that can't play as a wing-back. But I'm going to keep them as full-backs anyway. We can change that. We have got the flexibility to change that if we're playing Leif Davis and Harry Clark, but when we play Ben Johnson, he can't play as a wing-back in that position. So that's why we've got 5 at the back. Just to touch on, as I discussed earlier, we have got a few players unavailable on international duty. Christian Burgess is the only one. Al Hamadi is as well, actually. Australia, what are they on an international break for? It's the Asia Cup, I thought it was. It's the Asian Cup, so we've got Al Hamadi away. and Christian Burgess, which isn't really ideal for us, but it is what it is. We haven't got those players available at the moment. Stefan Bajcetic plays in defensive midfield again. He's had a good start for us. It's our typical defensive midfield partnership of Sammy Schmodics and Calvin Phillips, and there's two men up front, Liam Delap and Connor Chaplin. Interestingly, I had a meeting with the board that I've never had this before, that they asked me to drop this man. I think I only played him once against Man City, possibly as a target forward. And I had a meeting with the board wanting me to drop George Hurst or I'd lose my job. I've never had that before, but you can see on promises, drop George Hurst. If I play George Hurst, I'll get the sack. I've never had that in Football Manager. Just seems such a strange thing for the club to do, but there you go. So George Hurst isn't in the squad. Kevin Gamero's also on the bench, so he might make his debut today, but Joel Matip is going to make his debut, although he's not completely match fit in the middle of the park. We have got only 3 days between this match and the Brighton match, so we might make some changes at half-time if we're getting absolutely pummeled. But let's see. Joel Matip wants number 32. That's not available, so we'll give him number 37, and we'll give Kevin Gamero number 23. Ben Johnson's concerned about being left out, but he was tired, and we want him to be in the team for the following game at Brighton midweek. I think that's important for him to be in the team. Newcastle going with a fairly strong lineup, to be honest. They've got Callum Wilson, Anthony Gordon, Miguel Almiron. The only player missing out of that side, which isn't in the team at all, is Alex Isak. So a fairly strong team from Newcastle today. Let's just say that, you know, the fans believe in us and we've got faith in the side to do what we can. And the beauty of this, a little bit like the West Ham game, is that win, lose or draw, it doesn't matter for us in the league. So we can take this as a bit of a free hit, particularly to experiment and see how Joel Matip gets on, maybe bring on Kevin Gamero for his debut, and just see how we go. But I just thought that I'd have a bit of a change of pace. I didn't plan to show the West Ham game because I thought we'd lose, and the FA Cup wasn't really that important in our season. And there you go, the Dutch and Congo managers are in the stands today to watch somebody in the side. I don't think we've got any players from Congo. Anthony Gordon's gone down. Looks like Loof Wolfenden has committed the offence. Is this going to be given as a penalty? I didn't really see too much of it, just saw Anthony Gordon on the ground. Anthony Gordon has got a penalty. Luke Wolfenden has got a booking, which isn't ideal at all. Callum Wilson begins his run-up, and it is saved by Christian Walton. A fairly tame penalty from Callum Wilson there, but crucially, that has been saved by Christian Walton. Newcastle with a punch of... and come on. Surely we're not going to give away 2 penalties in the space of 7 minutes. What I have... I forgot to do that. I have taken off get stuck in fairly early on in matches because it just doesn't seem to be helping us. We're getting bookings and giving away fouls, and evidently here we're giving away 2 penalties. Can Walton deliver the goods again? He can't. Callum Wilson goes the same way. And if you're going to concede 2 penalties in the space of 8 minutes, then it's likely that at least one of them is going to be converted. So that is, to say the least, a little bit disappointing. I can't remember what I was going to discuss then, because I've been took away by the action in this match. So it might come back to me by the end of the match. But anyway, let's describe the action. We have got a potential attack here. Luke Wolfenden to our new signing Joel Matip. To Anzabay, hoofs the ball forward. Connor Chaplin doesn't quite get there. Livramento back to the goalkeeper. Let's see what comes of this. Are Newcastle going to score a second? And it's going to be bye-bye from the FA Cup pretty quickly. But Calvin Phillips intercepts Schmodics to Calvin Phillips. Can he make anything of this? Delap. Chaplin shoots and goes sailing over the crossbar. It's a good ball there to Connor Chaplin, but not a lot made of it. Although most of the chances have been for Newcastle so far. We've had a decent percentage of possession, 42%. The new tactic has brought us a little bit more of possession, a little bit less pressure on the defence from the opposition, which I think is big for us. I think the Tottenham game could work out to be somewhat of an anomaly. You've got to remember also that we are going away today to Newcastle, which does have somewhat of a bearing. We haven't had a lot of the game so far. It would be the law of sod that I would show you the game that we have none of the ball in. And to be fair, maybe after 3 games, our opposition have worked us out a little bit. But target, the ball gets intercepted. Almiron shoots, and it's 2-0 to Newcastle. So It looks like our FA Cup dream is over, albeit we did go 2-0 down against Manchester City, and we still managed to get something out of that game. So I think at half-time we're going to make a couple of changes, because it looks like we are out, but it makes sense to give some players a bit of a try, just to experiment. As I said, this game is a bit of a free hit for us. So we're going to bring Liam Delap on. We're going to bring Kevin Gamero on for his first game for us. Now, Kevin Gamero's best position is as a deep line forward. So we're going to change the tactic and go for him as a deep line forward, holding up the ball. Any other changes we want to make so far? Well, Leif Davis, let's bring him off. Let's give him a bit of a rest and bring Jacob Greaves on for him. And we'll make it 3 changes. We're going to bring Sammy Schmodix on. We're going to give Sam Morsey a bit of a run around, and we're going to put him as the anchor and play Bajcetic in midfield instead, and just move that around. That's it. So yeah, Calvin Phillips a bit more defensive. Give Bajcetic a chance to attack a bit more. So we're going to get underway for the second half. A triple substitution. I think we get 5 subs in the FA Cup, similar to the Premier League. I don't think there's any different rules there. It would have been nice to get results, or at least keep it close against Newcastle today, just to keep our morale positive, because if we go and lose this one by 3 or 4, which we're already 3-0 behind, some poor defending there, so Joel Matip hasn't quite done what we needed him to yet and shored up the defence, but to be fair, where is he? He's in the middle of the park, so he's got his man to an extent, but it is, embarrassingly, Joel Matip, after praising him all that misses his man. He loses his man, Callum Wilson, and Newcastle have gone 3-0 up. It's a bad example of a game to show probably today, because we haven't been in the game at all, to tell you the truth, and does provoke a little bit of fresh worry that we haven't really sorted out the defensive problem. We conceded 4 against Tottenham. We could well concede 4 here. We've got 25 minutes to go. We've had no chance of any sort of attack. We've had no attacking highlights, but again, having those 2 penalties conceded early hasn't done us any favours in this tie. We've got 15 minutes left, so let's make our last 2 substitutions. We don't want to risk any suspension, so Luke Wolfenden's going to come off for George Edmondson. We're also going to bring on Jack Taylor for Calvin Phillips. Nathan Broadhead, a player that's not been playing a lot recently, but he wants a new deal. And I've rejected that because he's not been playing wonderfully. He's not been playing at all recently, but there's not been any sort of massive upturn in form which convinced me that he needs a new deal. So I rejected that, and he's gone a bit funny, and some of the players have gone off. So maybe not the best in terms of morale for us, but again, a player like that asking for a new contract just seems a little bit bizarre. And as the shrewd operator that I am willing to fight that battle. We're 4-0 down though here at St James's, and me talking about having a bit of defensive stability, we've had absolutely none of that today. Maybe Newcastle are a step above us, but all the same, it does provide some fresh concern that the Man City and West Ham games were just a bit of a false dawn. But we're out to the FA Cup. We've shown some FA Cup action anyway, albeit none of it being where Ipswich had done anything. You can see in terms of XG, we weren't in the game at all. 0 shots on target. Our attackers had very little influence, but crucially again, Christian Walton apparently did very well with match rating of 7.1. Probably in some part for saving the penalty, but 9 shots on target. And Newcastle only scored 4 of them. So, I'm just going to say I don't like what I just saw, because you can't praise a team when they've lost 4-0. That just seems ridiculous. I'm just going to check that we're not going to have any sort of silly boardroom meeting, which we haven't, which is positive. And, well, after that pummeling, we've got a game against Brighton coming up next. We have already played Brighton twice this year, to which, on both occasions, we've lost by the scoreline of 2-1. Brighton's form hasn't been great, to be honest, looking at this. They lost to Plymouth in a replay of the FA Cup third round. They also lost to Bournemouth recently. So, apart from a big win against Wolves, Brighton are a team not in great form. But crucially, they have had 13 days to prepare for this game, which might give them a bit of extra fitness. 3 changes for this match at the Amex. George Edmondson comes in for Axel Tuanzebe, who's not quite fully fit, needs a bit of a rest. Chef Stefan Bajcetic is on the bench as well. He's a little bit jaded after the Newcastle game. Calvin Phillips is going to fill him in defensive midfield, and Jack Taylor's going to play in central midfield. We've also brought in Freddie Ladapo as a target forward to replace Connor Chaplin, who is benched, and Liam Delap moves to the poacher position. I'm going to go for the cautious one today and say that there's no pressure on the players and see if that changes things at all. Bit of a disappointing match against Newcastle, to say the least, but we know that Brighton are a team that aren't in great form either. They haven't won in the last 4. So potentially we could spring a bit of a surprise here today. Who knows? We definitely need to score goals and not give away 2 penalties in the first 10 minutes. That is going to be big for us. But we have took off the get stuck in instruction, which hopefully should help to an extent. We are in our orange kit, which I could be mistaken, but I don't recall seeing that all too often this year. But the match is underway. Just an update on the last game. The Congo manager was in the stands indeed to see Axel Tuanzebe in the last match. That's why he was there. But Ronald Koeman, the Dutch manager, was there to see Sven Botman for Newcastle. Not the best start for us here at the Amex. They've had 75% of the ball. Bit worrying this, because this new tactic did work short term and we scored 3 against West Ham, and now all of a sudden we don't seem to be in games at all. Good defensive clearance from Joel Matip, but the highlights still continue, so there could be something that happens here. Purvis to Binyan, Welbeck, Tariq Lamptey's going to shoot, this is going to go in, yep, off the post, and Brighton take the lead here at the Amex. There has been a bit of a break since I last played the game. Those West Ham and Man City games I played last weekend, and I am a believer in FM superstition, big time, that one session of FM it can all work, and then you come back to it and it goes disastrously. Albeit there was a bit of foreshadowing of that, the battering we had at the hands of Tottenham. But things don't seem to be improving. 22% of the ball in the first 25 minutes, and that's it. This is worrying, this. Maybe we just need to change to a mid-block rather than a low block. I always get a bit concerned about changing the tactic, because if you go for a preset tactic and start changing it, then it's not really the tactic anymore, is it? But something's got to change. We might have to revert back to more of the attacking tactic after half time, because this just isn't working for us at the moment. 25% of the ball, haven't even had a shot. And we're lucky to go in at only 1-0 down, to be fair. Show me something else. Sammy Schmodix is demotivated. I'm not really bothered. Yeah, we've got to change something. And I suggest we go a bit more attacking, to be honest. Just try and change something, because I don't know what to do else. I'm out of ideas again. We're going to have to change things, unfortunately, though, because the system doesn't really work with the players we've got in the positions they are. Well, Calvin Phillips has had a bad day. He's had a 6.2 so far. Let's give Nathan Broadhead a game. Let's play him out on the left wing. And then on right wing, we'll bring Connor Chaplin on. See if he can do anything from there. Albeit we don't really want to replace Joel Matip, do we? We'll bring... who can play it right back? Just going to have to have a bit of a change of system here. Luke Wolfenden can play it right back. Harry Clark's tired, so we'll bring Harry Clark off anyway. We were going to do that anyway, so that makes sense. And Calvin Phillips comes off for Broadhead. Just can't see that we can do anything else particularly here. I mean, we got that in for control possession. That's just not going to work, is it? But ultimately, quite apart from that, I'm a bit stuck to what we can do. Let's see if anything changes after half time. The next 2 games for us are going to be massive. The Forest and Brentford game again. But the frustrating bit is that I was hoping to come into those games in a little bit of decent form. But this does seem like that those 2 games against West Ham and Man City are a bit of a full storm. Sure, the result against City was lucky, no doubt about that. But we were in the game against West Ham. but we've made the tactical changes. We still haven't had a shot yet. We have started to get a bit more of the ball. Are we going to get a shot out of it? We're an hour in and still only 1-0 down. So we have got a chance if we book our ideas up to do something in this game. Finally, after 65 minutes, we've had a shot. But for the sake of repeating myself, I'm at a bit of a loss as to what to do. Mitoma, well, Minty's made it 2-0. That's going to be game over. And it's almost back to the drawing board again, isn't it? And all this time, we're not getting any points. Yeah, it's disappointing. We'll bring Kevin Gamero on. Leif Davis is tired. We'll bring Greaves on for him. And we'll make it a triple sub. We'll bring Jack Taylor off for Stefan Bajcetic. But, yeah, I'm struggling what to say at this point. I mean, we don't really want to play out of defence, do we? I know Claudio Ranieri was the tinker man and it seemed to work for him, but tinkering doesn't seem to work for us. I like to stick to a common tactic, and I thought with the route one we got it. We got some results, we started scoring some goals, but today's episode has just paled in comparison to that. Conceded 6. Not a shot on target in either of the matches. Is it panic stations? I think it is. Did any of the teams around us get points today? So Bournemouth got a point, so we've slipped another point away there. Wolves lost and Everton lost as well. But we just can't keep relying on other teams around us. And surprisingly, I still haven't had a boardroom meeting yet, which is a surprise. We had one in December, but not had one recently. And from a decent start to January, the month has ended absolutely abysmally. So we come back against Forest in the next episode. February is going to be massive for us. It really is. I think I'm going to show all 4 games in February on the next few episodes. But disappointing. I think I might just persist with the route one because, again, it seemed to work for us against West Ham. Maybe going away to Brighton and Newcastle weren't games that we looked at the start of the season of getting something out of, but the fact we didn't even have a shot on target is disappointing to say the least. That game against Notts Forest at Portman Road, if we go and lose that, I know I've said it before in a lot of different games, but I am surprised at just how poor the teams at the bottom of the Premier League are in terms of their performance. If we don't get something out of that match at Portman Road against Forest, in fact, if we don't go and win that, then we've got a big problem, because Forest are also winless in their last 5. Lost against Villa, Leicester, Man United, drew against Wolves and Bournemouth. So they're a side that's struggling to score goals as well recently. Only 2 goals in January. And if we can't get something out of Forest, who have just... Nuno's actually just gone to West Ham. So they're without a manager at the moment. Again, it's a perfect opportunity. A win against Forest and a win against Southampton this month, and maybe a draw out of either Brentford or West Ham, is really the minimum we need to keep pace with the sides around us. Bournemouth, with their new manager, they haven't actually appointed one yet, but the fact that they've sacked Andoni Raiola seems to have brought them a bit of form. But, I don't know, it's worrying, it really is. All of the clubs at the bottom, barring us, have sacked their manager. Bournemouth, Palace, Wolves, Forest. So there is one club. Everton obviously haven't sacked Sean Dyche, because to be fair, without that 6 points deduction, they would be quite a way away from the relegation zone in 15th and with 19 points. But maybe we're just giving ourselves a task that's too high. Maybe we just can't survive in this league. And son a postcard. But I'll be back in a couple of days for the games against Forest and Brentford. You will have noticed that it's been a little while since the last episode, and that's simply because I've been quite busy recently, and I am going to reduce the schedule on these slightly. I'm going to do 2 of these a week rather than every 3 days, which I guess some weeks works out at 3 times a week. So my plan is to release these episodes on Monday and Thursday, so hopefully you'll be seeing this on Monday the 23rd, and hopefully the next episode will be out on Thursday the 26th. But we've had some really good viewing figures on this series so far, considering that I've not done anything on this channel for 3 years. It's great to see that the support is still there. So, as always, leave a like, I really do appreciate it. Leave your comments down below and subscribe for more Football Manager action, and I'm going to have to go away now and have a few scratches of the head and wonder what we can do to try and save this Premier League season. Maybe, again, I'm taking some solace in the fact that today's 2 games maybe weren't games that we shouldn't win. But if we don't get anything out of Forest, a game that, again, in the form that Forest is in, we should get something, or at least be close to getting something. Don't get anything out of that, and maybe Bournemouth win their next game, then all of a sudden we could be 9 points adrift. And that's a long way to be adrift at this point of the season. Thank you for your company, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye for now.